Good evening. This is All India Radio. I am Valsa Williams and with me is Aditi Lumba with the evening news. The headlines. More than 54% voter turnout recorded in second phase of Bihar Assembly elections. Campaigning in full swing for third and final phase. National COVID-19 recovery rate nears 92%. Government says no service charge applicable on 60 crore basic savings bank deposit accounts. In the United States, voting underway for presidential elections. And in IPL cricket, Sunrisers Hyderabad playing against Mumbai Indians at Sharjah. As the nation fights the COVID-19 pandemic, we begin with a message of precaution to stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing, focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. Polling was held today for the second phase of assembly elections in Bihar. The second and largest phase of election witnessed a voter turnout of more than 54%. Briefing media in Patna this evening, Chief Electoral Officer H.R. Srinivas said voter turnout will increase after receiving final figures from remote areas. Earlier, briefing media in New Delhi, Secretary General of Election Commission of India, Umesh Sinha, informed that the second phase of elections in Bihar covered 94 constituencies across 17 districts.
Total number of electors 2,85,00,000, and this was made possible at the level of polling station by more than 1,90,000 our polling personnel, 3,260 micro observers. We had 3,044 sector officers. Then we also created 246 super sectors to 328. We had static surveillance teams, flying squad teams 354.
The Election Commission said that nearly 65 crore rupees have been seized till date in Bihar during the ongoing state elections. In the second phase, 1,463 candidates are in the fray. They include 146 women and 1 transgender. More from our correspondent.
Political fortunes of 4 cabinet ministers of Nand Kishore Yadav, Shravan Kumar, Rana Randhir and Ram Sevak Singh have been sealed in EVMs. Chief ministerial candidate of Grand Alliance, Tejaswi Yadav, is seeking re-election from Raghopur constituency. Out of 94 seats, BJP is contesting on 46 seats, JDU on 43 and Vikasil Insan Party on 5 seats, while RJD is contesting on 56 seats. Congress has fielded 24 candidates. LJP has fielded 52 candidates, RLSP 36, BSP 33 and NCP 29 candidates. This phase is crucial for RJD as the party had won 33 seats in last assembly elections. JDU had won 30 seats while BJP 20 and Congress 7 seats. 4 others were also elected. Krishna Kumar Lal, AIR News, Patna.
The third and last phase of elections in the state will be held on the 7th of this month and counting will take place on the 10th of November. Campaigning is in full swing in Bihar for the third and final phase of assembly elections. Polling will be held in 78 constituencies spread over 15 districts on the 7th of November in this phase. Star campaigners and senior leaders today addressed multiple rallies in support of their candidates. Senior party leaders of the NDA and Grand Alliance are leaving no stone unturned to woo the voters. Senior BJP leader and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said NDA is committed to a government which will work for the development of Bihar and the poor people of the state. Addressing an election rally at Saharsa today, Mr. Modi urged voters to reject the jungle raj or lawlessness espoused by the opposition. He said every citizen of Bihar is well aware of the betrayal by the jungle raj against the capability of Bihar. He alleged that proponents of jungle raj had kept the poor away from elections with the culture of booth capturing.
बिहार के विकास के इन प्रयासों के बीच आपको सतर्क भी रहना है। सतर्क उन लोगों से जिनका इतिहास बिहार में जंगल राज का है। सतर्क उन लोगों से जो बिहार के लिए नहीं सिर्फ अपने लिए, सिर्फ अपने परिवार के लिए जीते हैं। सतर्क उन लोगों से जिन्हें बिहार की मान मर्यादा, बिहार के मान सम्मान से कोई लेना देना नहीं।
Mr. Modi said the people of Bihar are committed to Atmanirbhar Bharat and Atmanirbhar Bihar. The Prime Minister listed the schemes and projects started by his government, including Jan Dhan Yojana and Mudra Yojana. He said due to the Jan Dhan Yojana, even during the corona period, direct help has reached the bank accounts of millions of farmers. He said the NDA had spent the last decade meeting the people's needs and was now focused on taking care of their aspirations. Senior Congress leader Rahul Gandhi addressed rallies at Kishanganj and Kodha today. He said the Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led government had promised 2 crore jobs per year, but they failed to provide it. He said poor people are living in worst conditions in the state because of the bad policies of the Nitish Kumar-led government.
बिहार के किसान को सही दाम नहीं मिलेगा, अगर उस खेत का फायदा उसे नहीं मिलेगा, अगर यहाँ पे फूड प्रोसेसिंग प्लांट नहीं होगा, तो बिहार का मजदूर, बिहार का गरीब, बिहार का किसान क्या करेगा? उसके सामने एक ही रास्ता है, दूसरे प्रदेशों में जाकर रोजगार ढूंढना।
JDU President and CM Nitish Kumar said in Benipatti in Madhubani that people of Bihar will not forget how the RJD had misruled the state. Senior BJP leader and Deputy Chief Minister Sushil Modi addressed public meetings in several assembly segments of East and West Champaran. He said RJD is making false promises to the youth of providing 10 lakh jobs. RJD leader Tejaswi Prasad Yadav said if voted to power, he will only focus on employment, health and education. Lok Janshakti Party President Chirag Paswan held rallies in Sakra, Gaighat and Bochaha in Muzaffarpur. He assured that he will make a new Bihar with a wider vision. Jan Adhikar Party President Papu Yadav alleged that both NDA and Grand Alliance are befooling people over development issues. Leaders of left parties also addressed public meetings in support of their party candidates.
Voting for by-elections to 54 assembly seats in 10 states also took place today. The states are Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Uttar Pradesh, Jharkhand, Karnataka, Odisha, Haryana, Chhattisgarh, Telangana and Nagaland. The voting for Valmiki Nagar Lok Sabha seat in Bihar and 2 assembly seats in Manipur will be held on 7th November. Counting for these seats will also take place on 10th November. In Madhya Pradesh, the electorates participated in the democratic process actively in the by-elections to 28 assembly seats today despite corona pandemic. 69.74% polling has been recorded in the by-polls. More from our correspondent.
Elections were conducted for the first time in the state during the COVID-19 and people voted wholeheartedly following all the guidelines. Polling was peacefully concluded in all 28 seats of the state except for some minor incidents of violence, firing and EVM vandalism during the voting in the assembly seat of Chambal regions. The fate of 355 candidates including 14 ministers has been sealed in the EVMs. The highest voting percentage, 81.26, has been reported from Badnavar seat in Dhar district, while the lowest voter turnout of 42.99% reported in Gwalior East constituency. Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
Voting for by-elections to 7 assembly seats in Uttar Pradesh completed peacefully today and no report of any untoward incident came from any place. More from our correspondent.
At some places, few corona patients also exercised their franchise with all the precautions and protocols. Election Commission has allocated the last 1 hour of the polling schedule for those persons who were either having high temperature or symptoms like COVID-19. Team of doctors were available at polling stations for the convenience of voters. Although it was a by-election, but there was no dearth of excitement in the voters. At a polling station in Bangarmou seat of Unnao district, a 100-year-old woman casted her vote while another excited youth voter came riding on horse to exercise his franchise. There were 88 candidates in the fray for these 7 seats. Sushil Chandra Tiwari, AIR News, Lucknow.
In Haryana, voting for by-poll in Baroda Assembly constituency of Sonipat district also passed off peacefully. Around 68% polling was reported as per preliminary data received from various polling centres. In Gujarat, 56.85% voter turnout was recorded in the by-elections on 8 assembly seats. According to provisional figures of the Election Commission, maximum 74.71% polling was recorded in Dang ST constituency. Kaprara ST constituency in Valsad district has registered 67.34% polling. Lowest 42.18% polling was recorded in Dhari constituency of Amreli district. Outcome of these by-elections will not impact the current political balance in the state. Ruling BJP has strength of 103 members in 182-member state assembly, while Congress has 65 members at present. All 8 seats were vacated following the resignations of Congress MLAs early this year during the Rajya Sabha elections.
The by-election to Sira and Rajajeshwari Nagar Assembly constituencies passed off peacefully in Karnataka today. RR Nagar Assembly constituency is home to many film actors from the Kannada film industry. Among those who cast their vote today were actors Digant, Avinash, Darshan, Prem, comedian Satish, senior poet Professor Siddhalingaya and cricketer Doda Ganesh. The plus point in Sira was that 85% of people with disabilities cast their vote. However, in RR Nagar it was just 9%. For the first time in the state, health workers, health nodal officers facilitated voting by COVID positive and suspect COVID voters. The election enforcement agencies booked 20 cases in RR Nagar and 19 cases in Sira under Disaster Management Act for dereliction of duty in taking preventive measures for COVID. In Chhattisgarh, about 77% voter turnout was recorded for the Marwahi Assembly by-election today. 286 polling booths had been set up for the polling. The electoral fate of total 8 candidates were sealed in the electronic voting machines. Polling was by and large peaceful. In Odisha, the Baleshwar, Sadar and Tirtol Assembly constituencies witnessed about 70% voter turnout till 6 p.m. today. Polling in both the Assembly constituencies was by and large peaceful, which was conducted with adequate security and COVID-19 preventive arrangements.
You're listening to the evening news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. More than 54% voter turnout recorded in second phase of Bihar Assembly elections. Campaigning in full swing for third and final phase. National COVID-19 recovery rate nears 92%. Government says no service charge applicable on 60 crore basic savings bank deposit accounts. In United States, voting underway for presidential elections. And in IPL cricket, Sunrisers Hyderabad playing against Mumbai Indians at Sharjah. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle at AIR News Alerts.
चलो मिलकर एक शुरुआत करें, चलो एक फैसला आज करें, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे, चलो एक इरादा करते हैं, चलो कुछ वादा करते हैं, मास्क नहीं तो टोकेंगे, कोरोना को रोकेंगे.
The Health Ministry today said the national COVID-19 recovery rate is nearly 92% and the cumulative positive rate is 7.4%. Weekly positivity rate is at 4.4%, while daily positivity rate is at 3.7%. Briefing media this evening, Health Secretary Rajesh Bhushan said cases per million population are at 5,991.
अगर केसेस पर मिलियन पॉपुलेशन देखे जाएं तो हम 5,991 केस प्रति 10 लाख की आबादी पर हैं. हमसे जो बाकी देश हैं वो कहीं ज्यादा हैं, तो ये भी एक संतोष की स्थिति है. यदि आप मृत्यु प्रति मिलियन पॉपुलेशन देखें तो भारत में 89 डेथ्स पर मिलियन पॉपुलेशन है, जो विश्व का औसत है वो 154 है और अन्य देशों में ये 600-700 तक भी प्रति मिलियन डेथ्स हैं.
Active cases are around 5,41,000 now. The Health Secretary said a declining trend has been observed for weekly new cases over the last 7 weeks, which registered a major fall. There are a few states where active cases are on the rise in November as compared to October. Manipur now has 3,500 cases from previous 2,000. Cases in Delhi have increased to 33,000 from 26,000. In Kerala, cases have increased to 86,000 from 77,000. Kerala reported more recoveries than positive cases today, as 6,862 new cases of COVID-19 were confirmed, while 8,802 people recovered from the infection today in the state. A report.
Bringing great relief to the state, the test positivity rate reduced to 11.2% as it was reporting a worrying 15% in recent days. The testing also increased considerably as over 61,000 samples were tested in the last 24 hours. Presently, the total active COVID cases in Kerala reduced to 84,713. Meanwhile, 26 recent deaths were also confirmed due to COVID today, taking the death toll in the state to 1,559. Mayusha for AR News from Thiruvananthapuram.
The government today said that no service charge is applicable on the 60 crore basic savings bank deposit accounts, including Jan Dhan accounts. Finance Ministry said there have been several media reports alluding to steep increase in service charges by certain public sector banks. It said the charges have not been increased. The ministry said Bank of Baroda had made certain changes with effect from 1st of November this year with regard to the number of free cash deposits and withdrawals per month. The number of free cash deposits and withdrawals have been reduced from 5 each per month to 3 each per month with no change in the charges for transactions in excess of these 3 free transactions. The ministry said Bank of Baroda has informed that in the light of the current COVID-related situation, they have decided to withdraw the changes. It said no other public sector bank has increased such changes recently. As per RBI guidelines, all banks, including public sector banks, are permitted to levy charges for their services in a fair, transparent and non-discriminatory manner. Finance Ministry said other public sector banks have also intimated that they do not propose to raise bank charges in the near future in the view of COVID pandemic. Jammu and Kashmir Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha spoke to All India Radio, Srinagar, and deliberated threadbare about his vision of development across the Union Territory. To know more, let's listen to our Srinagar correspondent.
Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha sketched his vision of development for Jammu and Kashmir in his first ever interview with All India Radio. He said that the 55,000 crore development package of the central government has given impetus to the infrastructural development in Jammu and Kashmir. In reply to a question about the new land laws, Manoj Sinha said that it has been wrongly interpreted in media. He said that we have about 88% of the land which is agricultural or forestry land in Jammu and Kashmir, and not a single inch of that land can be sold to any non-local resident as per the law.
नई इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी हम लेकर के आ रहे हैं और उस इंडस्ट्रियल पॉलिसी में बहुत सोच समझ के हमने बनाया है। भारत सरकार के वित्त मंत्रालय ने उसे स्वीकृति प्रदान कर दी है। अब प्रधानमंत्री जी की अध्यक्षता में कैबिनेट जिस दिन उसका अप्रूवल देगी उसके बाद हम काम शुरू करेंगे। मैं पूरी तरह से आश्वस्त हूं कि आने वाले 2.5-3 वर्षों में कम से कम 25-30 हजार करोड़ का इन्वेस्टमेंट आएगा, उद्योग आएंगे तो स्वाभाविक रूप से रोजगार मिलेगा।
Only 12% land can be utilized for industrial setup, tourism or educational setups. Sunil Kohl from Srinagar.
The first phase of the 24th edition of the Malabar Naval Exercise has begun at Visakhapatnam coast in Bay of Bengal today. Indian Navy, United States Navy, Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force and Royal Australian Navy are taking part in the naval exercise. It will continue till the 6th of this month. Malabar series of maritime exercises commenced in 1992 as a bilateral Indian Navy-United States Navy exercise. Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force joined Malabar in 2015, and the 2020 edition will now witness participation of the Royal Australian Navy in this joint maritime exercise. According to the Ministry of Defence, the exercise is being conducted as non-contact at sea only in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. The exercise will showcase the high levels of synergy and coordination between the friendly navies, which is based on their shared values and commitment to an open, inclusive Indo-Pacific and a rules-based international order. The voting for the 59th four-yearly U.S. presidential election is underway in the United States of America. The election for the next American president is witnessing a great voter turnout. Nearly 100 million votes have already been cast through mail ballots and in-person early and advanced voting. The prime contenders to the post are the incumbent president from the Republican Party, Donald Trump, and the Democrat candidate, Joe Biden. Here is a report.
With nearly 240 million eligible voters, world's oldest democracy witnesses one of the most crucial elections in the world politics. Due to the ongoing corona pandemic, several states in the US relaxed the provisions for early and advanced voting this time. This is why nearly 73% of the total ballots cast in 2016 presidential elections have been recorded even before the election day this year. Republican candidate and incumbent President Donald Trump looks confident of his supporters and is asking people to vote in the name of economic reforms, employment generation, and practical approach in handling of the COVID pandemic. The Democrat candidate, Joe Biden, on the other hand, has repeatedly attacked the handling of the pandemic situation. He also has promised to widen the ambit of the Affordable Care Act, or the popularly known Obamacare. The political pundits have termed the election as a very close fight, and only the next few hours will tell the world whether Trump or Biden will swear an oath on 20th January next year as the US President. For AIR News, Anand Chaturvedi, Delhi.
Indian Americans are one of the fastest growing communities in the United States, and their participation in politics has increased significantly in recent years than ever before. The Indian American electorate is expected to make a considerable difference in the US presidential polls this time. Indian diaspora in America is a 4 million strong community. Both the Republicans and Democrats have been making all-out efforts to woo the Indian Americans ahead of the elections. The Howdy Modi event last year was attended by 50,000 Indian Americans at Houston's NRG Stadium, where US President Donald Trump joined Prime Minister Narendra Modi in addressing the diaspora. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris is the Democratic Party's nominee for the vice presidential post. She was born to an Indian mother and a Jamaican father. Ms. Harris has attempted to strike a chord with both the African American and Indian American voters ahead of the elections. Our correspondent has filed this report.
Both Republican and Democratic Party are leaving no stone unturned in reaching out to the Indian American community. Indian Americans are the second largest immigrant group in the US after Mexicans. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella, Google CEO Sundar Pichai, former PepsiCo CEO Indra Nooyi are some of the notable Indian Americans. New York has the highest population of Indians, followed by Chicago and Washington, D.C. Democratic Party candidate Joe Biden's campaign issued a manifesto targeting Indian American voters. US President Donald Trump's campaign recently shared an online advertisement with images of Prime Minister Narendra Modi with President Trump at Howdy Modi event. The affluence and influence of Indian Americans in political circles have grown, and these efforts are geared towards securing their votes. Suparna Sekhya, AIR News, Delhi.
6 women-led startups have won COVID-19 Shri Shakti Challenge organized by MyGov in collaboration with UN Women. MyGov launched the COVID-19 Shri Shakti Challenge in April this year in collaboration with UN Women with an objective to encourage and involve women-led startups to come up with innovative solutions that can help in the fight against COVID-19. The challenge received an overwhelming response with a total of 1,265 entries from across the nation. After thorough screening, 25 startups were shortlisted for presentations to the jury. All the 25 selected startups presented their solutions to the jury, which evaluated the solutions proposed by the startups on the parameters that included innovation, usability, relevance, and impact of the idea on the society. The 8th meeting of the India-UAE High-Level Joint Task Force on Investments was hosted by India today in virtual format due to ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. The meeting was co-chaired by Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal and Sheikh Hamad bin Zayed Al Nahyan, member of the Executive Council of Abu Dhabi. The two sides noted the positive outcomes achieved by the Joint Task Force and expressed satisfaction at the level of bilateral trade and investment to date. They agreed upon the need to further explore ways to facilitate investments in key Indian and UAE sectors with potential for economic growth. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will chair the virtual Global Investor Roundtable on 5th November. The roundtable is being organized by the Finance Ministry and National Investment and Infrastructure Fund. It is an exclusive dialogue between leading global institutional investors, Indian business leaders, and the highest decision makers from the government and financial market regulators. Finance Minister, Minister of State for Finance, RBI Governor, and other dignitaries will also be present on the occasion.
4 coal mines were put up for auction on day 2 of commercial coal mine auction. Among these, 3 are in Madhya Pradesh and 1 is in Jharkhand. The e-auction witnessed strong competition amongst the bidders, with all mines attracting good premiums over the reserve price. First day of auction of coal mines for sale of coal yesterday saw strong and healthy competition among the bidders. Ministry of Coal had launched the auction of coal mines for commercial mining on the 18th of June, pursuant to a 2-stage forward auction process wherein the bidders have to bid for the percentage revenue share over the reserve price. Equity benchmarks today logged gains of around 1.25% amid a jump in global stocks. The BSE 30 share index Sensex regained the 40,000 mark, while the NSE Nifty 50 index reclaimed the 11,800 level. A report from the Business World.
The key domestic indices rose, supported by a surge in banking, finance, metal and auto stocks. The Sensex climbed 504 points or 1.27% to settle at 40,261. The Nifty also rose 144 points or 1.24% to settle at 11,814. Gold prices added 55 rupees to 50,735 rupees per 10 grams in the Delhi bullion market. And in intraday trade, Brent crude prices were trading around $40.40 per barrel, while WTI crude prices were around $38.20 per barrel. V. Ravi Kumar, AIR News.
About 2.55 crore rural households have been provided tap connections since the launch of the Jal Jeevan Mission in August last year. Goa had become the first state in the country to provide tap water connections to all rural households of the state. Jal Shakti Ministry organized a virtual conference today with all states and union territories ministers in charge of rural water supply to review the progress made under the flagship program. The video conference was chaired by Jal Shakti Minister Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. Chief Ministers of Haryana and Tripura attended the meeting. Addressing the gathering, Mr. Shekhawat complimented the states and union territories for their efforts to provide tap water connection during the pandemic. He expressed hope that all states will make all-out efforts for Har Ghar Jal. In Chhattisgarh, a Maoist was killed in an encounter with police in Bijapur district of Bastar division today. The encounter took place at jungles of Kamlapur and Usur area. Police recovered the body of the Maoist along with 2 rifles and some explosives. Meanwhile, CRPF has arrested 4 Maoists from Jangla area of the Bijapur district. They were allegedly involved in many Naxal incidents, including killing of police personnel and planting of improvised explosive device. And now let us take a look at the weather forecast for tomorrow. The national capital will experience mist. Temperature will hover between 10 and 30 degrees Celsius in New Delhi. In Mumbai, sky will be mainly clear. Minimum temperature in the metropolis will be 23 degrees, maximum around 33. Chennai is likely to witness a generally cloudy sky with light rain. The temperature will hover between 25 and 32 degrees. Kolkata is also expected to have a mainly clear sky with temperature varying between 23 and 31 degrees Celsius. In Jammu, sky will be generally clear with minimum temperature of 13, maximum 30 degrees. Srinagar will have a mainly clear sky becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. Minimum temperature in the city will be 1 degree Celsius while the maximum will be around 20 degrees. In Leh, sky will be partly cloudy becoming generally cloudy towards afternoon or evening or night. Minimum temperature will be minus 3 degrees Celsius while maximum will be around 14. Gilgit will have a mainly clear sky with temperature rising from 1 to 24 degrees. In Muzaffarabad, sky will be mainly clear. Temperature will move from 8 to 28 degrees. In Dehradun, temperature will hover between 12 and 28 degrees. The city will have a mainly clear sky. Chandigarh's sky will be mainly clear with temperature oscillating between 13 and 29 degrees. In Hyderabad, the minimum temperature will be 19 degrees, maximum around 32. The city will have a partly cloudy sky with haze. In IPL cricket, Mumbai Indians were on 115 for 6 in 16.3 overs against Sunrisers Hyderabad at Sharjah when reports last came in. Earlier, Hyderabad won the toss and elected to field. Yesterday, Delhi Capitals beat Royal Challengers Bangalore by 6 wickets in Abu Dhabi to ensure a top 2 finish for themselves and set up a clash against Mumbai Indians in Qualifier 1 on Thursday. And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. More than 54% voter turnout recorded in second phase of Bihar Assembly elections. Campaigning in full swing for third and final phase. National COVID-19 recovery rate nears 92%. Government says no service charge applicable on 60 crore basic savings bank deposit accounts. In the United States, voting underway for presidential elections, and in IPL cricket, Sunrisers Hyderabad playing against Mumbai Indians at Sharjah. For details of these stories and more, log on to our website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR app. And with that, we end the evening news. Good night.